Thank you for joining us for our May Digital Twin Hub meet. My name is Adam Beck. I'm Executive Director of the Smart Cities Council for the region here in Australia and New Zealand. And I'd like to start by acknowledging the First Nations people as the original inhabitants on the land of which I'm participating in this meeting today, which is in Brisbane, and recognise the country north and south of the Brisbane River as Turrbal and Jagera nations. I pay deep respect to elders past, present and future. And as we've just heard, we're joining in as well as participants from all parts across Australia and New Zealand. Just some very quick housekeeping. Cameras will be optional if you are in a place where bandwidth might be an issue. If you've got background noise potentially, if you want to put yourself on mute, we'll be recording this session for friends that weren't able to make it. And feel free to use the chat box if you like. That will be open the entire time. Couple of quick advertisements from us. The Digital Twin Hub, of course, is where all the action is, and these monthly meets are essentially an opportunity for us to raise awareness about what's happening at the hub, what's recently gone up, and our other relevant activities. We're currently in the process of working through our early scoping and mobilisation phase with the Digital Twin Challenge. We had 18 applicants from public, private sector and academia applied to be part of the challenge, which is an 18-month program. We'll make an announcement late June on the final cohort that'll be working over the next 18 months together on a range of projects. We put up 13 different digital twin related projects for the marketplace to respond to. Some early insights is that there's about 8 priority project areas that are starting to emerge. 4 of them very strong, a lot of interest in organizational wide digital twin strategy. IoT for digital twin is a second emerging priority area. Asset optimization frameworks for digital twin, and also digital twin as a data sharing and data exchange platform. And we'll certainly hear more about that in today's session from our guests. The digital twin strategy, some of you may be aware, has been evolving for about a year. We're in a final curating phase of trying to bring around about 67 pages down into about 15, and we'll be sharing that draft for industry comment in the short little while. We announced a week ago about that, that we'll be excited to host the New Zealand Digital Twin Summit. Pierre, we will be coming over there, and Janet McBool, our Director for New Zealand, is based in Hamilton, but we'll be heading to Wellington on the 8th of July to have a one-day summit around all things digital twin, which will be fantastic.
What are the details of that?
Yeah, digitaltwinhub.org. That's where everything will be kept updated if you keep across what's going on there. Digital Twin Week will be our virtual week-long series of events in October this year. It runs every October. Expressions of interest for anyone that wants to run a session are open. Again, the hub is where you go to get the link. We also put a call out and have a call open for our Digital Twin for Cities community of practice. The interest from local government is growing by the day as they realise that digital twin is a set of great capabilities. They are certainly getting attracted to it. And our Digital Twin Challenge currently has 5 cities that are looking to participate. So strong interest from local government now, which of course seems and has always been a bit of a no-brainer for us. So again, head to the hub in the news section if you have any clients or you want to refer any cities to that opportunity. That's going to be a cities only community of practice for them to hang out hang out in. So that's open at the moment. I'd like to welcome Spatial Vision as our latest member to the Digital Twin Task Force, which seems to continue to grow, which is fantastic. And of course, two of those members of the task force are here and going to share with us today. Andra Christie from AWS and Merrick Spain from Civic Analytica. They have been given the brief of 7 minutes each to share anything they want, really, on digital twin and digital twin related things. What I'm going to do is stop sharing. And Andra, we're going to head straight to you. Welcome and thank you. Over to you to share.
Thank you so much, Adam. Just 1 minute while I share my screen. I'll do the typical, can everyone see my screen, please?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So hi, everyone. I'm really excited for the opportunity to speak with you all today. As Adam mentioned, my name is Andra Christie. I'm a solution architect in the public sector at AWS. On the call, I also have one of my colleagues, Craig Lawton, who's an IoT specialist. And I believe I also have my colleague, Phil Lynch, who's an on-site hybrid infrastructure specialist. So I'm here to talk to you today about digital twins on AWS. We know there's a very broad definition of what digital twins mean to everyone. And the approach that we've taken is to focus on the business benefit or the business outcomes that our customers are trying to achieve by using digital twins. Digital twins are gaining more and more popularity, and in fact, the spend is predicted to grow to 48 billion globally by 2026. And also, digital twin is one of the top 10 emerging technologies. This is according to Gartner and IDC. If we have a look at what the industrial marketplace looks like today, it's something like this. It's got a very complex supply chain structure. And that's really why part of the reason why paradigm of digital twin is catching momentum. And obviously not just in the industrial marketplace, but because it just makes everyone's lives easier if they have a common shared replica that everyone can use. We're starting to see digital twin pop up everywhere and across different industries, media and entertainment, manufacturing, education, aerospace, local government, lots more, obviously. These are some of the most common business objectives and use cases that we come across when discussing digital twins with our customers. Everything from predictive maintenance to what-if scenarios, education and training, and also remote maintenance work where it's either risky or inaccessible for humans. So let's talk a little bit about customers and partners building out digital twins. We very much see this as a kind of journey, and as they go along this journey, they get more value out of it, but the complexity also increases, and that complexity increases somewhat significantly as the data they need to model or the simulation piece becomes more vital or important. So first of all is very much the visualize and understand exactly what's going on in real time, be able to essentially do root cause analysis based on historical data and so on. And then customers can often start doing real-time monitoring, event-based conditions. So for example, if this happens, then that should kick in type thing. Create an alert, for example, if you see these telemetry values get to their upper level of tolerance across a number of devices, and then take appropriate remediative action. And then that allows us to move into predictions where we've got machine learning and advanced analytics. So now we know exactly how a digital twin operates. We've got the historical data, we can start predicting, and then, you know, how should a twin operate under certain conditions? And finally, that simulation or the utopia type scenario. So how does this work from an AWS point of view? As of today, we don't have a specific digital twin product or offering, but we do provide that underlying platform that enables our customers and partners to build out their digital twins. So what you have here is our digital twin reference architecture, which shows us our customers can build that data platform on AWS and actually bring in all those different data types. So ERP data or IoT sensor data or you know, operational data from manufacturing systems or smart buildings and obviously many more. So we can ingest all of those different data types, we can store the data, and we can present it to the various applications that require it. We've got partners that can help here as well. So Siemens, Dassault, PTC are very much the complex manufacturing partners that provide end-to-end solutions like CAD modeling, digital twin components. And we've also got partners like Bentley and Hexagon who very much specialize in digital twins. So our reference architecture here is essentially to provide that data platform, as I mentioned, and the APIs for those applications to actually ingest that data. We're also seeing customers wanting to experiment with augmented reality or virtual reality around the output of those solutions, or to build their own 3D visualizations. So this is where other partners or our spatial team at AWS come in. They can help to provide that added interaction on top of the platform as well. We obviously know that customers are at different ends of the spectrum. We've got everything from mature companies who are trying to figure out how to incorporate digital twin into their legacy systems. And then you also have the various startups who are building out full-scale prototypes. So understanding the digital twin strategy is critical before they move into actual production, because otherwise you get those legacy decisions that are actually really hard to retrofit. So when we have customers who are starting to think or starting to formulate their digital twin strategy, bringing in experts from our side who can discuss what other customers are doing or what we're doing, what we've seen, can be immensely helpful. The biggest lessons learned are really about thinking big, starting small and scaling fast. The whole point is that you don't need to start with a massive project up front. You can select one piece of the puzzle that you'd like to solve, and you can iterate and continue to build on top of it once you prove out the use case. I've got a great customer example of a digital twin on AWS. This is Woodside, who's the largest Australian natural gas producer. And their operational assets reside in very remote, harsh environments. This is both onshore and offshore. They need condition monitoring where highly specialized crews are required, and they spend lots of hours every day doing maintenance checks in high-risk environments. So what Woodside wanted to do was essentially to build better than human awareness, to essentially reduce time in the field, to increase safety, and to provide those highly skilled operators the opportunity to do more value-add tasks. So our professional services team helped Woodside build Fuse, which is a 3D digital twin for operators to do their rounds remotely. So they consume AWS services to pull in all available data. And this is augmented with new IoT sensor data. So this can be image, audio, vibration, temperature through AWS IoT core service. They also use Amazon SageMaker, which is used to basically train and develop machine learning models. So the outcome of that is the operators can now do their daily tasks remotely. They can focus on other potentially more value-add activities. And it provides that increased safety component because they don't have to be on site in those high-risk environments. There's also the benefit of production outages being reduced because those assets are continually being monitored and listened to. It's a fully serverless solution, and it's built to scale dynamically as obviously more assets are being onboarded. One of the Woodside execs actually remarked that by using AWS, a machine learning job went from 2.5 months to basically overnight. Just quickly, because I know I'm running out of time, this is all about us democratizing the data, providing that underlying platform that I mentioned, which allows you to bring in all those disparate data sources and achieve those business outcomes and insights that you're after in one location. And finally, we've got a lot of customers and local partners who've worked with us on both digital twin and smart city projects. Would be happy to go into more detail or some other use cases in a future session. Thank you again for having me here, and I hope this has been a useful presentation.
Andra, thanks so much for that. That is great. I am even across more of what you guys are getting involved in, which is fantastic. Thank you for that. We'll switch gears now, head straight to Merrick, and then at the end of that presentation, we'll see if there's any questions or comments from our audience today. But Merrick, I'm going to give you the floor. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I'm going to stay off of video because I'm between meetings and I'm hotspotting off my phone. So don't want to take the chance that I drop out in the middle of the next 7 minutes.
That's all right.
Let me share my screen. And again, I'm going to assume that everybody can see that. So I'm not going to launch into kind of who we are, what we do. Essentially, what I'm here to talk about in the next 7 minutes is what we believe is the most exciting part of digital twin, which is the underpinning data services that enable digital twins. And I think as we've sat and watched the digital twin discussion over the last 3 years or so, we've seen it get to a point where there is now growing consensus and recognition that there is a unique and distinct kind of conversation that needs to happen about the data services enabling elements of digital twins. So I'm going to take you through, I guess, some observations that we have and the inferred kind of characteristics of the data services that we believe need to be there for digital twins. And then I'll show you a kind of an architecture that's harmonized between kind of current state and typical approach that's being taken today and where we believe things need to go, a target state of sorts. So in terms of observations, first of all, really important, and there was an article that I posted, thanks to Adam for sharing this morning on LinkedIn, which you should all go and read. The key characteristic of digital twins, and it could be now, but or in future, is that they will always involve an ecosystem, and that ecosystem will be a collaboration between disparate organisations, and it will expand and evolve over time. So that's an important thing to recognise when thinking about digital twin. Second of all, there's a range of informational processes that are involved. We're not just talking about visualisation. That's important to factor in as well. Digital twin applies to any real world element. It could be a place, a product, a process, a piece of infrastructure, a machine. And so it's important not to bring the specific lenses that come from any specific sector into the discussion because it is a broader thing than any one kind of lens. Third of all, it's certainly applicable across the entire life cycle of whatever the element is that's under consideration. You just are not going to get the value out of the exercise unless that the capability is deployed from the very beginning, inception, conception and design, right through to the ongoing operation, maintenance kind of function. And so our conclusion is that digital twin requires a diverse set of capability, and that capability draws on the inputs of and facilitates the outputs for an expanding and evolving ecosystem of organisations, and we call those the data services. So the inferred characteristics of the data services, first of all, have to be collaborative in order to support an ecosystem that's evolving and expanding of disparate organisations. The underpinning data services have to be able to be deployed in a way that's collaborative. Second of all, have to be agile. The reality is, as soon as you're talking about a disparate ecosystem of organisations, you have the imperative to maximise value both at an individual and a collective level. And that's important to say because there are some very significant obstacles to scaling data sharing and a long-term collaborative program between disparate organisations. We've been in that space for a number of years now, and it's not an easy piece of work. So the platform has to be agile to enable that. Third of all is that the data services have to be diverse because essentially those data services have to be available at the on-demand discretion of the individual participating organisations in order to be able to enrich and adapt the digital twin over time as the requirement changes, as reality changes that you need to reflect in the digital twin, and also to create new value that is adjacent to the digital twin. And finally, data services have to be abstracted, and that's really the culmination of the three previous points, because you have to abstract the data services away from any particular organisation and away from any particular use case to be able to achieve those three things. So let me jump in now and show you the kind of architecture that we have in mind. Now, again, you'll see that I've highlighted the word project in purple, and that's because that reflects kind of where organisations are at today, the kind of scale that they're at today, the level of collaboration that they're at today. But we think it's important to have an architecture that is going to be able to be persistent across both what organisations are doing today in digital twin, but also then scalable to be able to live up to where things need to get to. So typically today you have an organization that has some of its own internal data sources that it wants to use for a digital twin. It also would like to leverage some of the open data sources that are out there and available to leverage. And then typically they have, an existing or a couple of existing clients around a specific project, and those clients have some data. Essentially then they have kind of a piece of digital infrastructure, which is the place where they are then able, through the internal processes of data quality and transformation, be able to get that internal data into that internal system, and then bring open data sources on, and then ingest the data that is being shared by the specific client. And I guess that from there, you have all of that data being able to be used for the development of a digital twin. Right? Now, this is where we start to pivot to future state, because you'll see a bunch of gaps there, and we're about to fill in those gaps so that you have a far more holistic understanding of how you create, all of the characteristics of the data services that we've outlined and we would argue are important. So this is where we pivot to what we call program data services, right? Which is a kind of target state and is more sustainable and underpins a much more holistic approach that delivers far more value. And essentially where that starts is where you have a much broader range of organizations and their disparate data sets that you need to get involved, right? And that implies that this capability then becomes abstracted and is there to serve the individual and collective interests of all of those disparate organizations. What that means is you're then able to have a way where those organizations, through their own direct engagement with the hub, are able to get their data into that, and you're then able to provide a pervasive range of data management capability to each of the participating organizations. And that capability means that there is value that flows back to each of the individual organizations and the collective in the form of the abstract agile data services kind of model. That means that you're able to leverage all of the data and digital content and the models that are provided by the individual organizations. It means you're able to do multiple levels of data sharing, including the ability to facilitate private data where organizations choose not to share, either for the purposes of the digital twin or any other use. You're also obviously elevating the importance of data security and privacy and governance, because you now have a decentralized kind of shared digital infrastructure. And then the provision on platform to be able to facilitate visualization and analytics and data engineering to facilitate that individual and collective value creation. And this is where you then start being able to leverage off a much larger data universe to be able to enrich your digital twin, to build additional digital twins as well. And you can also then have a far greater range of activities around innovation and collaboration with all of those, all of that data universe, to enable ad hoc, on-demand use cases in addition to the digital twin. And those would fall into either internal organizational use cases for any of the individual participating organizations, or extended enterprise use cases where any of those organizations and any selected ecosystem within the universe of organizations participating are able to add value. And there's certainly, like the digital twin, to have an entire marketplace use case. And finally, when you take that more holistic kind of approach and you look towards this kind of target state, you have the ability to have far more value creation with external engagement with various sectors, and after all, that's where you really then start to see the measurable individual, collective and socio-economic value creation. So we'll leave it there. That's a lot to chew on. I'm happy to engage with anybody on a one-on-one basis. We'll be writing articles and doing a few things over the coming weeks to kind of outline a bit more detail about our thinking on this. But thank you, Adam, for the opportunity to share these thoughts.
Merrick, thanks for that. A lot of information in a short period of time. I acknowledge the challenging brief that we set our guests. So Merrick and Andra, thanks so much for sharing. A few minutes now for any questions or comments from our audience. feel free to use the chat box or take yourself off mute. Ask a question.
Clearly, they were so blown away. There are no questions, right?
Clearly. We do have 120 seconds left, so I don't want to keep us longer than we need to. Can I ask a quick question, actually? Merrick and Andra, the digital twin conversation and vibe and activity, are you seeing from your clients and your partners an increase, a decrease? Nothing's really changing. What's your general sort of vibe? What are you sensing out there, Andra?
Andra, you go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I definitely think there's an increase and an interest in the discussions. And as I was saying, we tend to see it from, quite a different range across the spectrum. There are some people who are still trying to define what a digital twin actually means to them, and others who are really quite advanced in the process, including a customer I met recently who's actually authored quite a number of digital twin posts. So I definitely think there's an increase in the appetite and the conversations that we're having, irrespective of whether they're at the very beginning or quite at the advanced end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Merrick?
So, Adam, as you'd expect me to say, the conversations that we're having and we're seeing in the market now compared to, what we observed from more of a distance 3 years ago are really characterised by two things. One, the organisations who've been early in doing something have started to realise and awaken to things like the fact that if a digital twin that you've built is based mostly on the data you have with a couple of extra open data sources, it starts to become a struggle to most accurately represent the real world element that you're trying to represent, because the real world has a lot of complexity in it, and so inevitably that means you need to have a lot more data than what you originally might put into your kind of first development, and that implies most of the time that you've got to engage with a wider audience of organisations than you foresaw, and that becomes a challenge, and you start realising how difficult that is. But equally, some of the kind of, let's call them fast followers who've looked at what the early adopters did have seen some of the challenges and also the opportunities to take more of a holistic view and understand that, hey, how can we make this more of a long-term collaborative program? How can we deliver far more value than what is potentially, has been delivered by some of those early adopters? And all of those kinds of discussions have led us to be far more actively involved in the discussion, and evolving the thought leadership that we're trying to provide around the underpinning data services.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, thanks for that, Andra. Merrick, thanks for joining us on the Hub Meet this month. To our audience, remember, we'll be back again, same time, same week next month. Look forward to seeing you then. Everyone have a fantastic week. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Adam.